One Community USA is a nonprofit that is empowering individuals to work together with law enforcement to end the cycle of violence, poverty, homelessness, and joblessness. Toni Brinker is the founder and CEO of One Community USA, and she joins me in studio tonight. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your time. You know, what a lofty goal when we kind of list that. What led you to start this nonprofit in 2015?
Quite frankly, it goes way back to my late husband, Norm Brinker, with Brinker International. And so for years, I watched the philanthropic efforts that he had in the community, whether it was serving people food, which may very well have come out of the restaurants, or just coming into an area and saying, I think we need to do some help. And you take that and couple it with a march that I saw in New York City in 2014, where people were saying, what do you want, dead cops? When do you want them? Right now.
Wow.
So from New York, I called the Dallas mayor, Mayor Rawlings, and I called our police chief at the time, David Brown, and said, I'm in New York, this is what I see. I see it on a very exclusive street. We've had Trayvon Martin, we've had Ferguson, and if I'm seeing this now, I think we've got problems in the United States.
That's
and of course, my statement to them was, I said, I'm calling to tell you about this. And I said, what are you going to do about it? And they said, well, maybe what are you going to do about it? And I said, me? I'm just a little citizen. I'm just calling to tell you. But that's actually where it began.
Wow, what a great story. What is the correlation we see between poverty and crime?
Oh, it's a direct line. So generations of poverty leads to hopelessness. If there's a young person there that's born, say, on the same day that I am, you know, as a child, we all have great dreams. So if you're a little girl, like me, when I was little, you grow up and you think that some white knight's going to come along and save you, and that life will be good. You'll have a house, 2 kids, and everything will be great. But if you live in an area of concentrated poverty where you lack food, you lack the access to an education, you lack access to good housing. You know, after a while, those dreams fade away. And in an environment where you see that day in and day out, then everything on the other side looks like it is better than where you live. And then you don't want that to turn into some other kind of emotion. And that's really what we see. Generational incarceration is another thing.
It kind of leads me to my next question, which is how a lack of resources in these communities really only adds to the problem, like access to funding, right?
Correct. Access to funding is one thing. Generational incarceration. I deal with families all the time where the grandmothers may be raising the children, but when you talk to the children, they say, my dad's in prison. If you visit the dad in prison, he say, my brother's in the prison. Oh, by the way, my father is in the unit over here.
Wow.
And it may be the mother. But you think about the generation of the child, how this continues to just keep cyclical, but getting worse unless someone comes along and says, let's kind of hit the reset button and start over.
I think what's great is you're lending a voice to something that I know that we take for granted in the communities I grew up in. These are things we don't think about. And when you describe it, it's almost like, are you talking about America? Or are we talking about a third world country? This is happening in our cities in America.
Correct. I could take you 4 miles from the studio and show you something that you would see in a third world country. I can take you into areas in Philly and Chicago, Atlanta, and your viewers should understand that there are actually, in the hood, there are actually ghettos in the hood. And I didn't know that. I didn't grow up in that area. I don't look like a lot of the people who live there. But I walk the streets. I meet with the gang leaders. I meet with mothers whose children have been maybe gunned or hurt by police officers. On the other hand, I meet with widows of officers who have been targeted and killed. And what I always try to tell people, that pain on either side is exactly the same. The people may look different, the circumstances may differ, but everybody is hurting.
You mentioned about this what you witnessed in New York City. So how is your organization really kind of helping to overcome this negative race relation that we see between law enforcement and the communities of color that honestly the media, and I'm going to throw one right back at me, we tend to sort of fan the flames of that.
Oh, you do very much. But not just you.
Right.
Politicians do it, people do it, causes do it. I look at everything from a business perspective. So since I'm in the restaurant industry, or my husband was, we don't put a restaurant in an area that is unsafe. We understand that when we do, or a neighborhood turns, the building may get burned down, the food product might be taken out the door, sold for drugs or whatever, but we have a fiduciary responsibility, not only to our clients who walk in the door, but our people that work there. So if you look at it from a 34,000-foot level, you have to bring two groups together, and only two, that can create a sense of unity in a neighborhood. And when you have unity, then you have trust. When you have trust, you have conversations that might be positive. But you can't sit around and talk all day long. You have to do something.
Right.
So those two units of people, or basically groups of people, need to be our frontline first responders. That's law enforcement, fire, EMS, anyone who's taken an oath to serve and protect. That would be your mayor, your city council. That's a teacher, that's a nurse, that's a doctor. They've taken an oath to serve and protect you, the citizen.
Right.
So you also want to bring your citizen in as well. But then people need to realize that we switch places. Moms, at some point in their life, become a first responder. Mm-hmm. Dads do the same. You may be witness to a school shooting or something. At Parkland High School down in Florida, there was a young boy who lost his life because he saved 6 of his friends. That young man became a first responder. He didn't intend to,
Gotcha.
But he did. But bring those two groups together, address race head on,
right.
Talk about it, and then do something positive about it.
Toni, there's so much more I want to talk about. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but for someone who's watching it, we got about 20 seconds. How can they get involved? How can they reach out to you and be a part of what you're doing?
They could go to our website, www.OneCommunityUSA. You can volunteer, get involved. We have reentry and diversion programs for veterans and people coming back.
That's great.
And we have programs in the underserved community.
Toni, thank you for your time.
My pleasure.